class, welcome to your next set of notes. Today we're going to be talking about divisibility rules. So make sure you title the page, date the page, and then you should all have a piece of paper that looks like this. If you don't, you need to print it off from Google Classroom. Otherwise, this will be extremely difficult for you. It is only one-sided, so that makes that easy. So what you are going to do, you're going to turn this over so it looks like this, and then you are going to fold it inward on that line that's right there as best you can. So there's that dark-ish line, fold it inward, and you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. You're going to fold it inward. So it looks like that when you are done folding. Okay? Then you are going to grab your scissors, and I'm actually going to trim a little bit of this off, just right to those dotted lines, just so it lays a little bit neater and I don't have these pages overlapping each other. And then I just need to cut along my dotted lines so that way when I open them they're like flaps, just like when we did that box and whisker plot notes page. So I'm going to cut all of these. And then finally, I'm going to glue this down. So it should look like this when you are done and ready to go. You are going to need a highlighter or a marker of some sort, and then obviously your pen or pencil to write with. Okay, we won't be doing all of these, however you can learn them all, but I'm not going to be testing you on them all. There's a few that are most key, that are the easiest for you guys to work with, and the ones that I really want to make sure you know. So the easiest one is obviously 2. If a number is divisible by 2, we've already talked about this. If a number is divisible by 2, okay, that means that it is, so I'm going to open this up and I'm going to write, it is an even number. Meaning, it ends with a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. And I'm going to box that in. An even, so it's divisible by 2 if it is an even number, which means it ends in a 0, 2, 4, 6, or 8. So that means I'm going to go through and I'm going to highlight all my numbers that end in a 2, my numbers that end in a 4, my numbers that end in a 6, and my numbers that end in an 8, and my numbers that end in a 0. All of those numbers are even. All of those numbers can have a 2 go into them. Hopefully we all remember that, because that should be something we already know. The next one that people should know is a number is divisible by 5. Okay? So I'm going to box this in again. So a number is divisible by 5 if it ends in a 5 or 0. A number is divisible by 5 if it ends in a 5 or a 0. So that means I'm going to highlight all of the numbers that end in a 5, and all of the numbers that end in a 0. The next easiest one is not one that's on here, but I want us to write it down. So we are going to write down a number is divisible by 10 if it ends in a 0. A number is divisible, oops, sorry, you cannot see that. A number is divisible by 10 if it ends in a 0. So that is something we have to know. Everything that ends in a 0 is also divisible by 10. Those are the 3 easiest ones, because all you have to do is look at the number and be able to say it's divisible by 2, it's divisible by 5, it's divisible by 10, because you just have to take a look at the number. Where every other number, you have to do something in order to figure out if it's divisible by that number. So the next one that we are going to go to is number 3. So what I want you guys to do as part of your homework is go through and be like, okay, 3 is divisible by 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. I want you guys to keep that process going with your highlighter or your marker. Okay, so finish up that 3 with your highlighter or marker. But here's the tricky part with 3. With 3, we have steps that we have to follow. So here are steps. We have to, 1, add all the numbers, meaning add all the digits. So let's say, I'm going to give an example over here. Let's say that I gave you the example $363. When I mean add all the digits, I mean 3 is a digit, 6 is a digit, and 3 is a digit. So I want to do step 1, 3 plus 6 plus 3. I'm going to add all those digits together. Well, 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. That's my step 1. Add all the digits together. Every number in the number is considered a digit. So we need to add them all together. Then step 2, if the sum is divisible by 3, so is the number. Meaning, can I do 12 divided by 3? Yes, it is 4. So that means that 363 is also divisible by 3. So if the sum is divisible by 3, the number is divisible by 3, meaning divisible, meaning divide. I can divide it into that number. This trick will really help you out if you memorize it. If you do it and you practice it, when these numbers get really, really large, it will benefit you. I strongly encourage you to memorize it and use it. And honestly, when we take a quiz, you will have to have this rule memorized. You will not get to use your notebook. So make sure you memorize it. Okay, so that's 3. Please make sure that you finish that. We are then going to go into the number 9, because the number 9 is very similar to the number 3. So same thing. I want you guys to highlight your 9. So 9 18, 27, 36, 45, 54, 63, 72, 81, 90, and 99. Those are all of your numbers that are divisible by 9. So the 9's rule is extremely similar to the 3 rule. You have steps. Your first step is once again to add all the digits. So if I gave you the example, $1,341 I want to know, is this number divisible by 9? So step 1, I need to do 1 plus 3 plus 4 plus 1. I need to add all these digits together. Well, 1 plus 3 is 4. 4 plus 1 is 5. 4 plus 5 is 9. So that's what I get when I add all the digits together. So then step 2 is very similar to step 2 with 3's. It's if the sum is divisible by 9, so is the number. So when I look here, my second step says, can I do 9 and divide it by 9? Well, 9 divided by 9 is 1, so yes. So that means 1,341 is also divisible by 9. Once again, if you can memorize this, it will really help you out. I can guarantee you that. If you memorize it and you use it, it's so beneficial for you. But that is our 9's rule. Then our next rule that we're going to talk about is our 6 rule. So a number is divisible by 6 if. So I'll highlight all the 6's. So we've got 6, 12, 18, 24, 30, and then I'm going to have you guys finish that for homework. Finish the highlighting, count by 6. You guys can do it. So 6 is probably the hardest one because 3 and 9 you just had to do something, where 6 has a little bit more steps to it. So I'm going to box it out. Okay, so a number is divisible by 6 if it is divisible by both 2 and 3. Meaning a 2 has to go into the number and a 3 has to go into the number. So here's what I mean by that. If I have an example and I give you 642, I need to ask myself, if I did divisible by 6, it has to be divisible by 2 and by 3. So my first question, is this number divisible by 2? Can a 2 go into this? Well, it ends with a 2. So it ends with an even number, which means yes, it is divisible by 2 because it ends with an even number. Now I have to check 3. Well, my steps for number 3 are to add all of the digits. So I'm going to take 6 plus 4 plus 2. 6 plus 4 is 10. 10 plus 2 is 12. Then I ask myself, can I do 12 divided by 2? Well, yes, I can. That is 6. So that means it's also divisible by 3. So 642 is divisible by 2, and it's also divisible by 3, which means that it is also divisible by 6. That's the tricky part. There's 2 parts in one, and you have to be able to do both. Okay? So here's the best part. Those are the only ones that we are going to be learning about. We are not going to go over 4. We are not going to go over 7s. And we are not going to go over 8s. Now, I could teach you all of those. They're not terrible, but that's a lot of things to memorize. And I think those are the other ones that will help you out the most. 4 would be the next one. That would be the next easiest one for you guys to memorize. And honestly, they're a great thing to memorize. Fantastic thing to memorize. So if you memorize them, it's only going to make your life easier in terms of division, especially when numbers get bigger instead of having to guess and check. These are simple rules that the more you practice, the more you memorize, the easier it gets, the better it will be. So we are going to flip the page and we are going to do just a few example problems. Title up at the top again. Okay, so I'm going to do one with you, and then I'm going to have you do one on your own to bring with you to class tomorrow. So, here's our first number, 782,340. I want to know, is it divisible by 2, by 3, by 5, by 6, by 9, and by 10. These are the only ones we are checking, so these are the only ones that I want you to figure out. So the easiest ones to do are to do your 2, 5, and 10 first. Get the easy ones out of the way. Do the ones that all you have to do is look at the problem and be like, yes, it is divisible by that. So 2, it has to end in an even number. Well, an even number ends in a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. This ends in a 0. So yes, it is divisible by 2. 5, it has to end in a 0 or a 5. This ends in a 0. So yes, it is divisible by 5. 10, it has to end in a 0. Yes, it ends in a 0. So it is divisible by 0. 3 and 9 are the ones that you should do second. And in order to do those, you have to find the sum. Which means you need to take 7 plus 8 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 0. You need to add every single number together. So 7 plus 8 is 15, 2 plus 3 is 5, 4 plus 0 is 4, 15 plus 5 is 20, plus 4 is 24. So 24 is my sum. So once you have added those digits together, you then ask yourself, well, can I do 24 and divide it by 3? Well, that's 8. So yes, which means this 782,340 is also divisible by 3. Do the same thing with the 9. Can I do 24 and divide it by 9? Well, yes, but it's going to get me a decimal, and I don't want a decimal answer, so that is a no. It is not divisible by 9 because 9 does not go into 24 perfectly. It has to go into it perfectly. The last number that you want to do is your 6. And 6, this number is divisible by 6 if it's divisible by 2 and by 3. So now that I've solved 2 and 3, all I need to do is be like 2, yes, 3, yes. Okay, it's divisible by both 2 and by 3, which means yes, it is divisible by 6 as well. So that's kind of that thought process that you guys want to have when you're doing these problems. So I'm going to give you one more. I want you to do one for homework, and then we will do a few in class together. So the number I want you guys to do is 7,321,694. So you need to tell me, is it divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, oops, not 4, excuse me, 2, 3, 5, 6, 9, and 10. Tell me if it's divisible by each of those numbers. And you also need to tell me what that sum is. So answer that question for homework. We will do a lot of practice with this in class on Tuesday. It's really a topic, guys, that all I can tell you to do is practice. The more you practice it, the easier it'll get. If you don't practice it, it's not going to get any easier, and it will be pretty difficult for you, especially when a quiz or a test rolls around, and you have to be able to know these divisibility rules and tell me them. So good luck. I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.